Tech Cocktail Sessions, educational and inspirational talks from experienced startup founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders.
Thanks, Frank, and it's really been interesting to listen to the last speaker, which was filled with practical advice and wisdom, and I'm going to present you guys with more of an enigma than a solution, so I'll apologize for that in advance. I do want to make a record. Frank asked me before he started whether he thought this would be a good figurine to put up here, and I said yes. Knowing that the owl is the symbol for learning, and it's the favorite of the goddess Athena, and learning is what I want to talk to you about tonight. I was told that I could talk about whatever I wanted to talk about, and learning is it for me tonight. I'm also not a great public speaker, so I took the liberty of writing some stuff out. So I can't see you, but I want to ask you, how many of you people think that math is an important part of education? Yes. And I also want to ask you, how many of you really enjoyed taking math in school? Wow, that's more than I thought. I think if you go around and talk to people in general, if you look at the Twitter feed on algebra or geometry, which I have, it's mainly tweets to the idea that math sucks, math is making my life impossible, I hate geometry, I hate my geometry teacher, and so on and so forth. So what I want to talk tonight about is simply, is math on the wrong track? And let me just start by saying, this should be a golden age for math in schools. After generations of benign neglect, the subject has been thrust into the media spotlight. It's kind of like this, it's kind of like embraced by both sides of the political spectrum. Politicians, educators, private companies maintain that math learning is the key to everything from smarter workers and savvier customers to improve national competitiveness. And in truth, math is key. It provides the underpinnings for problem-solving mindset that address every sector of society. From manufacturing to services, modern enterprises run on computers whose coding principles are rooted in the logic of mathematical thinking. Studies presented by UNICEF show that math achievers excel and earn higher salaries globally in any profession they enter. Yet students widely flee from math in the classroom. Engagement is plummeting. Even those who recognize the compelling arguments for advancing their careers treat math classes as an ordeal to be tolerated. And by the way, I notice in the Downtown Project that math is highlighted as one of the key goals of the Downtown Project. So what's the problem and what's the cure? Many educational research organizations believe that traditional math instruction is out of date and that new approaches are necessary. Along with the movement to bring computers and tablets to the classroom, which we've been seeing here at CES, many teachers are experimenting with software apps and web-based videos that rehearse math equations online. But there's an even more ambitious approach that I've been studying called cornerstone maths, and this is really a solution that the approach addresses the essential but hard to grasp concepts in maths. It's like solving linear equations, geometric similarity, and algebraic expressions. The program's supporters claim that the approach combines both interactivity and classroom collaboration about real-life projects. So this is the kind of experiment that we see these days cropping up. It's based on 2 decades of research into how children learn abstractions. A critical insight in this research is that there is no silver bullet that would result in a large increase in students' learnings of difficult math. In large-scale experiments in Texas and Florida, conducted by Stanford Research International, the cornerstone approach achieved learning gains across a wide range of student backgrounds. In both states, students who used cornerstone materials showed significant advances over those who did not. But beyond these current trials and innovations, there's a group of educators and mathematicians who believe that the issues with math are deeper than how it's taught. They maintain that the entire subject is bogged down in endless drills and hopeless irrelevancy. Their argument, simply put, is that the school's focus on mastering calculating skills is no longer a real-world requirement. There is a worldwide math confusion, says Conrad Wolfram. He's the founder of computerbasedmaths.org. Wolfram is a passionate advocate for reforming the subject, and he's the brother of Stephen Wolfram, who's the founder and CEO of the popular Mathematica software programs. According to Conrad, people who know that there's something called math that is important, and yet we have this subject in schools that everybody thought was the subject but isn't. It's disconnected. Wolfram burst onto the scene nearly 3 years ago via a TED Talk that has since been viewed nearly 900,000 times. The essence of the talk is that while math requires a combination of problem formulation, abstraction, calculating, and communicating, schools remain steadfastly focused on calculating. The alternative, teach mathematical thinking and hand the drudge work to computers. That's what Wolfram says. He says you've got to get rid of the crud that people don't need. Let's assume you have a computer, like you do in real life. To demonstrate the ease with which computers calculate, Wolfram pulls out his iPhone and asks Siri to calculate an equation, which she happily does. Wolfram sees uncanny parallels between traditional approaches teaching math and subjects like classics. When people stopped needing Greek and Latin in everyday life, schools continue to require classics as a proxy for learning English grammar. Likewise, says Wolfram, with maths, there is a real world subject, but what we are teaching is a proxy. The proxy isn't working that well. People hate calculating. They don't understand what they're doing. My argument to mathematicians who oppose this is if you stick with your current subject, it will turn into classics, because in the end, you can't justify spending billions of dollars a year around the world teaching a subject that basically nobody is using. It will not survive as a general purpose subject. So what needs to be done? Wolfram believes there are two choices. Essentially, a new subject starts to replace math, or we change math into the subject it ought to be. In one way or another, it's got to match the real world, he says. According to Wolfram, categories of algebra and geometry are not the real subjects any longer. Today, maths is a proxy for real maths. We have real subjects. Why are we not teaching them? Why not start from a problem you want to solve or a kid wants to solve and use maths as a tool to help? Wolfram can be quite lyrical about the future. He is fond of quoting the entrepreneur Steve Jobs, who once praised Mathematica software as something that will, quote, revolutionize the teaching and learning of math by focusing on the prose of mathematics without getting lost in the grammar. What might a new maths curriculum include? Wolfram compiled a list that includes mathematical thinking, everyday maths, finding patterns in information, knowing where you are in space, mathematics in the natural world, mathematics in technology, and money math. Wolfram's approach has attracted many supporters, notably the government of Estonia, which has invited computer-based maths to bring newly designed statistics courses to the nation's schools. Estonia's Minister of Education and Research says, we believe in the enthusiasm and the potential of the internet generation. They are ready for computer-based mathematics. It will also give them a competitive edge in the labor market. Computer-based maths has also found its share of critics. Math traditionalists, including parents, teachers, and educators, who staunchly support training students how to calculate, are among those. And as someone who is trained to memorize not only math, but music and foreign languages, I can totally sympathize with that point of view. Another important issue is whether teachers who have traditional training will be able to teach the new approach. Finally, and most seriously, the educational assessment community has not signed on yet. Assessment providers are organized to measure calculating skills and math content as a body of knowledge, not the open-ended understanding that Wolfram eloquently espouses. Wolfram describes computer-based maths as a multi-dimensional helix that includes abilities such as the confidence to tackle new problems, abstracting to mathematical concepts, and planning and managing computations, not to mention an instinctive feel of maths. Mapping these goals to traditional assessment outcomes will not be easy, he admits. Moreover, the heads of schools believe that they have to teach kids to the standard tests. Some assessing agencies are starting to recognize this. The problem is that we assess the facts and not the procedures. If you want to assess critical thinking, you have to teach critical thinking, says Helen Eccles, who's the director of Cambridge International, an assessment guru. Computer-based maths changes the learning outcomes and teaching methods. Yet change never comes easily. Because of the multitude of obstacles, Wolfram has set a 25-year time frame to put maths on a new track for the real world. I know this won't be easy, he says. That's why I've dedicated my life to it. So I would like to leave you with this enigma. How should maths be taught in schools? Thank you very much.